If you have a business and or something you're really passionate about, chances are that the pain points that your audience, your product or your service is a solution to was because you once had that same pain. Welcome back to Moms Making Dough. I'm your host, Kendra Hewitt, and today's episode is going to be episode 29 of our summer school series because slowing down this summer is so last season. That's kind of silly, but anyways, we're rolling with it. If you have been listening to this other episodes in this series, I am so excited. I'm getting lots of amazing feedback because we've got the product. We've packaged it up. You've made it look pretty. You've probably priced it by like a pro by now if you listen to the other episodes in the series. And last week we prioritized like the boss babes I know you are. Now it's time for my favorite part, which I am calling very candidly today, persuasive promotion. And we are going to kick off with a scenario or I don't know even what to call it right now. It is I am calling it poke the pain and paint the peak. That is what I'm calling this this today's episode, because those are the two things that we are going to talk about how you do that to engage your ideal customers so that you not only connect with them, but then you eventually teach them and convert them. So the huge thing on this is that, like, I think when people think about promotion, it's they don't separate the two, the connection and then the conversion. If you do the connection right, a lot of times the conversion is a hell of a lot easier. But that's something that we're going to focus on next week is the conversion piece of it. Today we're focusing on the connection, like grabbing your audience by meeting them where they are at, by meeting them in what I call the pit of pain. So, a little bit more translation on this. We are diving in on this today's episode in persuasive promotion of getting to the real pain points your audience is secretly dealing with. Now, I'll give you a little bit of hint. Um, for if you have a business and or something you're really passionate about, chances are that the pain points that your audience, your product or your service is a solution to was because you once had that same pain, right? So I'm going to use some varied examples as they come up today. But I want you to grab your favorite notebook, your sassiest highlighter, if you're like me and you live with highlighters. It's time to stir a story that sells, and we're going to start up by stirring the pain of your ideal clients. And like I said, some of the problems that probably led you to start your business or create the product or service that you sell, and start crafting content that connects consistently. So the conversion part, when we get to that, is a lot easier. We are going to walk through an exercise that I do in the summer school series with my group that was so powerful. And one thing I should say to this too is that you could do this with your actual, like your product, your service, your business. You could also do this if you are in sales. This is an unbelievable sales strategy that I'm about to teach that I swear by. And also, it's a really great. I just worked with a client today. We worked through her presentation for that she's doing a very big presentation, and we talked about like this exact concept. We went through her slides and her delivery, her deliverables, and we talked about how we were going to stoke the fire of pain before we positioned her as the solution, what she has to offer as the solution. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. And I'm going to walk you through that formula because before you can get paid and you can convert a lead, you've got to get seen and start driving some traffic into that shiny funnel. And let me say it this too is like when I say funnel, I think people get lost a little bit, like I myself included. It's like you don't need a bigger, more fancy funnel. Like I'm talking you can start with zero funnel. I know so many people that have businesses that there's some people I know that don't even have websites, or some people that have very big businesses that don't even use their website as a tool. They might have it for presence, but it's not the thing that helps them get leads. So we're talking about getting seen by stoking the pain today, or I've been calling it poking the pain. So we Attract the right audience with the right wording, no sleaze tactics, no spam, just strategy that really sticks. So let's dive in. Find them in the pain by first remembering yours without getting stuck there is step number one. Chances are, I believe that if it was something that hurt you, meaning whatever you provide as a product or service, it was probably a solution to something that you once wished you had. So let's kick it off with I this exercise. I just call it brain dump the pain. The goal is to, without really much filter, get back, like I said, when you first had this problem that you wanted to solve, and your solution is the product or service that you offer, and or starting to pull and get your brain thinking of like what of some of the answers to some of these questions I'm about to ask. Number one is, what was I struggling before I created this product or service? So, like, what were my personal main pain points, drivers, in why I'm creating it? And then the next question that I asked, which is the one that I call it the magic wand question, because it's like if I could wave a magic wand and make this problem disappear, what is that problem that fills in that blank for your ideal customer? Um, and the really easy, most consistent one of this brain dump that I like to use is what keeps your client, your ideal client avatar up at night? Like what stresses them the F out? What keeps them like tossing and turning? What makes them look like just burn out because they have no more energy to confront because this is such a big problem for them? And we want to get as specific as possible when we're starting to brain dump the pain, because I want you, as part of this exercise, this brain dump, is you're going to write down your top 10 pain points that your ideal client might be struggling with. And I'm going to give you a kind of funny example, but it's one that's really concrete. And I remember when I had this problem, it is not one that I offer a solution to. I refer to people that do, because it is not my passion or purpose. But it was a real problem when I had it. And that is when I was breastfeeding, and or I was twofold breastfeeding and then learning how to sleep train was a huge freaking challenge, as it is for most parents. Maybe not the breastfeeding, but more the sleep training. So I'm going to roll with the sleep training example for all of us mompreneurs, because I know every single one of you can probably relate at some point. Maybe not with every kid, but maybe with one of your kids. And if you are like me, part of the problem is that I function horribly with very interrupted or lack of sleep. I cannot be my creative self. I cannot even feel like a productive human being. I remember the first 30 days after I had my daughter Lily, I didn't even drive because I was scared of falling asleep, because I was so not used to the sleepless nights and the getting up and feeding and that sort of thing. So I had a double whammy. I was having challenges with breastfeeding in terms of supply. And then on top of it, so I was seeing a lactation consultant for that. And then the sleep was really killing me, which was also affecting my supply. And so I thought about this. I was like, holy shit, now I need a sleep consultant. And I remember going through all of these people's accounts on like Instagram and online, and buying several different programs until I found the one that actually really worked. Which if you're in this challenge right now, the woman that I used, her name was, it was called Taking Care of Babies. Her name's Kara. So that was the play on it. And I just remember reading her marketing and being like, holy shit, she's explaining every single thing that I'm experiencing right now. Being afraid to drive, not functioning well, not low breast milk supply, not like not eating and then eating like the wrong foods, like all of these things that weren't going to help me. And I knew I had to get a handle on. So she met me in my pain. That's why step number one is really getting clear so that you can start to poke them in your pain. So the first step of this exercise for this summer school series is going to be brain dumping your top 10 pain points of your ideal customer, and remembering that it might be the pain points that you had when you had this problem before you had a solution to it. When it comes to coaching, like one of the biggest pain points I hit all the time is that I they're working. My clients are typically, before they work with me, they're working all the time. They're working harder, but they're not paying themselves what they're worth. Or they feel like a bad mom, and the mom guilt shows up when they're working way more hours, but they don't have anything to show for it. That's probably my number one pain point that I like to hit, is like working harder, but not taking home what you're worth. And then, so I want you to, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is gonna be pull the people. This is going to be validation or confirmation, I like to say, of your top 3 pain points. So if you have that working list of 10, you are going to create a poll, and you're gonna use social media to do so. Post a poll on Instagram, or maybe in a Facebook group if you have one of those. And maybe it's even to your, if you have an email list, you could send out this poll and or make it into a survey, but you want to keep it fairly simple, no more than 3 to 5 questions. And you want to look at that list of 10 pain points. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at that list, and I want you to say to yourself, if my product is this, what do you think that would be the major things that are keeping you from having whatever their transformation you want them to be? So let's say is like, if you are an overtired mom with a newborn, what is the biggest thing that is keeping you up at night? And it's like most like answer number one might be like my baby, or it might be like pain, like, or it might be like lack of nutrients or something, whatever. It could be whatever. But you wanna put, like, what are the 3 top pain points that you see, and start to poll your audience of, like, what language do they use, because you want to speak to their pain in their language, not yours. That's a huge thing that I think really separates when you're looking at copy that connects versus and then in the future converts, is you, can also, at this point in the polling of, like I said, your audience, is you can start to look at, what if you have current client base, this is a really good opportunity for you, maybe not even a survey format, but just one-on-one, or even in the office, if you have a physical location, of asking, like, what made you buy from me in the first place? So, like, what made you come to my chiropractic office versus the chiropractor down the street? And what you find here is, a lot of times people will say that, like, they had a very specific reason that they came to you over someone else. Um, so the more specific you can get on these pain points, the better. Your goal here on this poll of people, step 2, is to confirm your top 3 most common, most emotionally charged pain points of your ideal audience. So there's first 2 steps. Step number 1, find them in the pain by remembering yours with a brain dump of your top 10 pain points. And the second is going to be pull the people, which is validate the top 3 pain points from that list that resonate the most, and get it in back to you from a customer's language, not yours. The third step we're going to do here is going to be called, I call it study the scene. Study the scene. This is where you learn and model, not copy, learn and model. What are some of the things that are possibly working in your environment? Now, here's the catch on study the scene. You don't have a confirmation, you have an assumption that this is working for the person. And I like to say this is where you start to just study the space you're in, and then learn how you can stand out. And what we're going to do here is, you're going to pick 3 websites or social accounts. Some people don't even have websites anymore, like I said, social accounts of people in your sector or industry. So, again, I'll stick with the sleep training example, because I feel like I started with that one. Might as well keep it rolling. With the sleep training, I started to look at, like, follow accounts that were on sleep training. And then I started to look at, like, different websites and different programs that were offered, how they package them, how they offer them. So I want to do the same thing. I want you to do the same thing for your business at this point, in terms of starting to continue down the path down. We're still on poking the pain, because the better you get at meeting your prospective avatar in the pain, the more engaged you will get them when it comes to the conversion process. because you're qualifying them. You're meeting them in the pain so that you can paint the possibility, is what I like to say. So, but before we can paint the possibility, we have to, or paint the peak, as I like to refer to it. We have to just get them into attract them by meeting them in the pain they're at before we can position that you are the solution to their problem. So, on study the scene, the action items here is you're going to pick those three websites or social accounts, like I said, and you're going to look for three things. You're going to look for headlines. Like, what are headlines hook you immediately? Like, they grasp your attention, they force you to read them, you stop scrolling because it has some good copy elements in it. The second part is copy. Do they speak to pain or just pitch product? Because I'll tell you, if they do not speak to pain, the number one selling thing is going to be pain. You're going to meet them in the pain. Then they are just pitching a product, and chances are, unless it's a product that you absolutely need and you don't need much qualification for, then you are going to scroll right past them or move right past that person. And then if it comes to the third part on this study the scene, would be looking at their calls to action. Are they offering the 3 Ds, I like to call them: downloads, discounts, or discovery calls? Because those are three things that you can really basically whittle it down to, is that they're either offering like a free consult or even a paid consult of some sort, what I call discovery call. Then they're either or they're offering a discount, like maybe it's like, like sign up here and we'll give you 10% off your first order. And then the third thing is going to be downloads. So they're going to give you some sort of freebie or some sort of exchange for value in return for your information, because this is part of you learning how other people in your industry or sector are building their following. And as you start to build yours, with hooking them in, like I said, grabbing them with those pain points so that you're engaging them and meeting them where they currently are at before you can show them what they could have. So I feel like that's a huge thing, is that, like, I love to say this. One of my mentors said this to me, and I just love it, sticks with me so much. I think about it so often. Is that he always said, you want to give them what they need and show them what they could have, right? So you meet them where they're at, give them what they need. If it's, in this case, whatever pain they're in, you want to meet them where that pain is. And then you want to show them how they can get out of it. And your product and or service is the solution on the bridge that gets them from where they are now to where they want to be in the future. So you're looking at what are this my in the study the scene portion, you want to look at the calls to action for the other, like, I would say probably top 3, if you can narrow it down to 3 other people in your industry. And add the next, this is kind of like a bonus one, but I think it's worth sharing here, because if you are in a position where you run ads for your company, or your product, your service, um, I want you to look at these 3 companies you're looking at and notice if they run ads, and if they do, which ones grab your attention? Like, which ones do actually click and stay a while, not just click because you wanna see, like, something bad happen, which is usually something, like I said, that's pain, right? And then what I want you to do is, in the study the scene, the final thing, once you've kind of compiled that data, that's what we call it. It's data, it's factual, right? What would I do differently? Like, how would I stand out from whatever the messaging of those other 3 people are? How do you align with them versus how are you different? Like, that clarity, I think, is a really good question to ask in the study the scene. And what did they do in terms of those people that you're studying that actually worked on me? Like, what did I click on? What did I engage with? What kind of language was I responding to? You'll find that a lot of the depending on the industry, a lot of the people that, like, are speaking to the pain. Are you sick of this? Do you want to get rid of this problem? Like, that is what grabs attention. Sure, there's stuff that, like, shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh my God, I would feel amazing if I owned that pocketbook or whatever. But we're talking about deep diving into what is the pain of your ideal customer in this first section and module of episode 29. And then we get to the good stuff. The good stuff is step number 4, the one that I love the most, which is paint the payoff, or as I like to say, paint the peak and the possibility. And this is where you get to flip those pain points into actual results. And you start to talk about and paint the picture. And here's what I find: most of us, we have a really, we can very easily identify the problems we have, right? But it is very hard for us because it's a muscle most of us don't work too often, where we actually want to visualize what the future could look like without this problem. So your audience needs you to kind of do that for them. They need you to say, like, hey, here's, like I said, my mentor said, what you could have in the future if you just buy this product or service that I'm offering. Right. So on Paint the Payoff, there's some really compelling questions you want to ask here too. And this is all going to be available to you to do as your homework assignment on this summer school series. That's my gift to you guys this summer. I'm going through as I'm prepping and launching my digital course in the fall. And that is this is that you get to do the workbooks, like some of the exercises, not all of them, but in a self-led way. This exercise will also be included in the workbook that comes along with that this episode. All you have to do is direct message me. I think we call I said the direct message me promo, and then we will make sure you get the workbook for this part 4 of our 8-week series. So, with that said, these are the questions. On painting the payoff and creating the possibility, what does my client really want? So let's go back to my sleep training example because I feel like we're rolling with that one. The sleep training, what did I really want when I was looking for a sleep trainer? First of all, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous at the beginning that I was even looking into this, that I needed a sleep trainer on teaching me how to teach my child how to sleep. But I quickly found out this. It was my number one priority because I realized that if I did not, other than feeding her, I guess, if I did not prioritize getting her to sleep well, not only would this be a problem that would haunt me for 18 plus years, right? It also would lower my production at work. It would lower my production or like my presence in my home. I had so many pain points stacked that I got to this point that I was willing to pay to hire a personal sleep consultant to help me train my daughter Lily how to sleep because I realized that I had never ever done this before. That was my first rodeo with the newborn. And when it really hit the head, I remember I was about 9 months postpartum. And so Lily was 9 months. And like she just had this regression that I was like, oh my God, we can't go back there. And that was one of my greatest fears. So when it comes to poking the pain, that's why a great question is figuring out like what is that your ideal avatar's actual greatest fears. My greatest fears was like sleepless nights where I was a complete zombie the next day, to like even where I thought I was dangerous, like I didn't want to drive, right? So I needed to see what could my future look like at this point for me to engage this sleep consultant. So in this scenario, what I really wanted, meaning me being the client, was I wanted to know how to peacefully, not forcefully, teach my daughter good sleep habits that would carry her through her life. But the biggest thing I wanted was for me to retain my sanity and be able to sleep myself so that it did not hinder my production at work, my presence at home, and my purpose as her mom. So that's me starting to paint the possibility. Now, when I was looking for the sleep consulting, I'm not thinking about painting the possibility. But here's the thing, the sleep consultant I bought from, she had that nailed and dialed in. So the first question in painting the peak is, what does my client really want? Like, what do they want their lives to look like at the end of when this problem is no longer a challenge for them? And then again, the magic wand question comes in. If I had a magic wand, what outcome would they pay me anything they had for or be begging me to have? Some like, and one was like, I would love to sleep an 8-hour stretch. Like, that would be like, if you had a magic wand, if she had asked me that question, the sleep consultant I bought from, I would say that that's exactly how I had it verbalized. I said, "You're if she asked me if I had a magic wand, what's something that would disappear tomorrow?" And I'd be like, "I would absolutely love to have 8 hours of straight sleep." Um, Frankly, I probably would have wanted more, but, like, that's where my mind was at that point. So the magic wand question, if I had a magic wand and I could make something disappear or happen for you, what would it be? Right? So that's part of painting the peak. And then the third one is, how would your life, business, or family be after you solve this problem? So, like, for example, again with the sleep training, if I had a sleep training and I had a child that slept through the night and it wasn't painful, meaning it wasn't a painful process to get her to do that. If I So I felt confident, I felt happy with the approach I was using, because trust me, I tried a couple different sleep methods prior to the one that I ended up using, and they were a little bit painful. They did not they did not align with how I wanted to present myself and be as a mom. So I quickly ditched them. And that, like I said, my search for this sleep consultant continued. And then the second one, if I could make wave the magic wand, my answer would have been that I would love to actually have 8 hours of solid sleep. So, now on the third question, how my life or business or family feel after solving these problems? Well, first of all, I felt like my marriage wouldn't be on the rocks right away, because, like, one of the biggest stressors was that Ryan, my husband, will come home from work and I would be completely zombie look like a hurricane just went through the house, and he'd be like, "Oh my god, what happened here?" And I would just be so stressed about the bedtime routine in the past. So in my future, what I wanted that picture of that peak to look like is that I wanted to be peaceful. Like, I wanted it to be able for him to come home, me be present with him, instead of absolutely, like, stressed out to the gills that not only did I have a stressful day, and now I have to go do this stressful bedtime routine, which was probably part of the problem. I was so stressed about it. So, I'll give you a little bit example too, that I use, like, in my coaching and in some of my copy. Imagine paying yourself consistently and still having time for your kids. What if your business stopped draining you and finally started delivering for you? That's a huge one I use a lot. Picture a week without financial panic or calendar chaos, I call it, in your business. Um, these will become what I call your peak state content statements. So these are ones that you use over and over again. You reframe, you insert in everything from your socials to your website to your print copy to your email letters, newsletters. These are things that carry over across all of the domains of your marketing. And that's why they add up, because you want to have some of these key peak pain points and peak possibility points that you can go to again and again to create persuasive and compelling copy that not only connects people, but it already has started to convert them into sales for you, which is what next week's episode will be. I'm so excited about that, as we talk about actually getting to the step of getting paid. And reminder that this isn't your make your sale moment. This is attracting and aligning with your ideal audience and engaging them, because you're using meeting them in their pain and showing them the peak of their possibility to use this strategy across multiple domains that you use to build traffic and a following of new leads to your system. This is the marketing component of building a purposeful product and enjoying purposeful profits. So, what I have found is that when you speak directly to your audience is already feeling, and where you meet them where they're at, when you give them what they need, then you not only connect with them, but you become real to them, you become relevant, and you actually become very irresistible to them in most cases, because You are positioning yourself as the brand they go to, but most importantly, the brand they trust when they are going to make a buying decision, which is, like I said, next week. So if you want to get to do work through your offer and your promotional strategy through this process. If you want to use this to create your calendar, you want to, maybe you've had a content calendar that's just been kind of ho humming along for a while, and you take this stuff that I went through today, these strategies I went through today, you can follow along and do this exercise as if you were in my group coaching program, which again, that I've had many questions about when it opens up again. It's not going to be till the fall of of this year, 2024. 25, oh my God, 2025. Sorry. I wish we were still in 2024, but we're not. We're in 2025. Um, you will be able to, all you have to do is direct message me and just say promo. And I will send you the workbook. I think it's about 5 pages long, but it will be 5 pages that you will get so much value out that you will be able to use again and again in all of your content and across multiple platforms to not only convert, but I mean, not only to connect, but to eventually convert, which is what we'll talk about next week. So I cannot thank you enough for tuning in today's episode. If you loved what I shared and are willing to, I would love if you would rate, review, and subscribe Mom's Making Dough so I can continue to know what information you really want to get to not only expand your mind, but also your business and the abundance of your family life. I would love to hear from you. And as always, if this information was useful, please share it with someone who might not have been exposed to it in any other way. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on Mom's Making Dough.